You know, I'd always been drawn to movies. I read something where, uh, in some film book, about the very earliest experience of a movie to a kid is when he's playing with lead soldiers down in the grass, and there actually is a frame for the action, and he moves the lead soldiers through through the grass and speaks for him, and he's observing all of this. Uh, when I read that, I thought, well, that's how I came in contact with that need, or what was happening. And then later, looking at a screen and feeling that I was there, that I was in the action. And it wasn't like reading a book. It was visual, but with the visual came much more clarity of what was happening. And then it gradually occurred to me that I didn't even need dialogue. You know, I shouldn't say no dialogue. The point is that I became a follower of Federico Fellini, so I'm stealing all of this from him. But it stuck with me that the most important, to me, the most important part of film is the face. He called the face the landscape of a film, landscape of the whole film. And he believed the face was more important than even the dialogue, even the talent, which I say in a hush, but because it may be insulting. But so then, and that then I think goes back to casting and how important casting is. I had a specific interest in what they call method acting, which is not really all that most people think. It's just believable acting. And so I said, okay. Well, of course, Shelley was, what experience have you had? How about none? And but I think she was intrigued with the idea that I was a psychiatrist. This is while I was in practice, and so she went along with it, and she had more to lose than I did. So, but she went along with it, and went along with the idea of not getting as much pay. But so she came down here with Gary Swanson, Corinne Chateau, Francesca DeSapio, and others. And we went ahead and made it in 19 days. It was the hardest work I'd ever done.
What was the budget?
The budget was about 500,000. I think the producer liked to tell people it was $1 million, but it was about 500,000, maybe more. And we shot that whole thing. 19 days, 5 in the morning to midnight. It was hard work. Plus, Shelley's behavior was interesting. It was the nicest thing I can say. The beauty of it all is in the journey of making a movie. The fun of it is that. And then suddenly the movie makes you. Suddenly it makes itself. It has its own progress. So I really believe that becoming open to allowing that to happen is really important. I mean, there are of course some rigid points of writing a script and the shots needed and the storyboard, understanding the theme, and a lot of conceptual stuff. But once you get on the set, once you start making the movie, the real art is being able to adapt to changes and adapt to what might happen. One actor might be better than another. One might be disappointing. And I believe being ready to do something about that is important. Why is one interested in theater or in writing? It explores a human condition, for one. And my whole life's work has been exploring the human condition and the human psyche and emotions and trying to understand them. I think ultimately what the realization is that people really don't understand each other, and they rarely understand themselves. And most people are totally unaware of what motivates them. I don't exclude myself from any of this, from any psychological defenses or whatever. But exploring what motivates certain behaviors, and then finally understanding that emotions are affectual. Affect is a face. I can talk all day about a feeling, but I can't do it better than an expression, a facial expression. I can write pages about it, but you can never do it better. Well, it seemed to just folded right in with everything I was interested in. And the more the better. I couldn't get enough of it. I still read a lot about the application of psychology to film. I am still interested in the boundaries between dream and wake, and fantasy, reality, and how I'm sort of enticed with the idea of how they can merge, how on the screen, maybe in writing, but the visual, when it's done right, makes writing look pale. It outdoes it. It brings a vision that writing can never do. And it brings me right into it. And I can't put the book down. I'm watching it. And so it might disturb me, or it might make me laugh. I guess I'm sort of interested in making people feel disturbed, inviting them to merge the boundaries between fantasy and reality, conscious and unconscious, wake and sleep. And we spend an awful lot of time avoiding dealing with feelings, afraid of what we feel. And I guess I like to nudge them into that uncomfortable area, or give them knowledge of it, not just make them uncomfortable, but give them knowledge of it, or help them understand it, and realize that this is common. This is not abnormal. It's common. And so then it might bring out narcissistic aspects of themselves. It might bring out hidden anger and rage that, if not dealt with in an appropriate way, will come out somehow, will emerge somehow. And that helping the audience understand that feelings are not good or bad. They're just feelings. It's what we do with them that can be labeled. With my own narcissism, I try to use the arts. A ballerina uses the arts, artists, painters. So that's what we call a benign narcissism. It's productive. And it keeps us from getting into a malignant phase of it, which at the very worst end is Hitler and Saddam Hussein and such people we label evil. You see, it doesn't have to be a winner. It doesn't have to be a Hollywood movie. It doesn't have to be my paintings don't have to hang in any museum. It just the creativity of expression. And if I say to myself, or you say to yourself, I want to express myself, or I work alone, it's a narcissistic thing in itself. So narcissism is not bad. Benign narcissism, which doesn't hurt anybody, which is simply I express through my art, or you do, or any artist does, is not pathological. It's when this becomes malignant, when it hurts people. I would say it's a sin to put an obstacle in front of a creative person. I think that is the worst thing you could do. And it might be pretty tricky encouraging them, but at the same time saying, be careful. But discouragement, never. I would never discourage. I think it's the gravest sin of all to discourage creativity. I'm overstating that. But I just think it's a terrible thing to do to people. To obstruct it. And usually those who obstruct it are sadistic anyway. They have their own thing going. It's like critics. I never pay attention to any critics, but they have this false power and can destroy lives for their own aggrandizement. They want to sound sophisticated. But as you know, the arts are subjective. I mean, you can have one thumbs up, one thumbs down, both of them very intelligent people. Why should I listen to either of them? Films are subjective. Someone will walk out and say, I just love that. Person next to him will say, I hated it. I don't pay attention to any of that. Why should I? I just do it if people like it. It makes me feel good. If they don't like it, it doesn't make me feel good. But I don't go around saying, would you tell me how good that was? I'm not saying it doesn't sound good, but no, to pay attention to critics is a mistake. They have no place. A critic's place to me is to simply tell what the story is and how the artist went about trying to tell it. That's all. I really believe that to label is to disable. Old saying, whether it's positive or negative. But to explore it is important. That looks interesting. I think it's very important to encourage exploration. So why critique something as I think Fellini said, why critique something and tear it to pieces? What's the purpose of that? Pretty sadistic, isn't it? Since film is subjective anyway. You know, if I see a painting in your house and say, I hate this painting, take it down. It's terrible. Look at this, look at that. You've enjoyed it all your life. What's my purpose then? Is it not hostile? It is hostile. No matter what fancy language I use. And it can be very hostile. And so, I don't listen to that. Not at all.